Okay guys, welcome back to this tutorial. Today we're going to talk about something called database connection. For you see, I've been making websites, we've been making web forms, but those web forms, they have where they connect, they have where they pick the data, they have where they write the data. So for us to be able to connect those two parts in PHP, we need that file that connects the SQL server and our front end form. Okay, so that's the file we're going to talk about today. In most cases, many people name it as the config.php, many people name it as the database.php. Okay, so we shall start by starting our server. Let's say in this case we're using XAMPP. You know, XAMPP gives us a Apache server with the MySQL server. So the format we are going to use is called the MySQL listing. Okay, we shall start our servers, the Apache and MySQL server. Okay, after showing green and they're running successful, we shall go to our Chrome to check whether Apache has run successful. So I made we shall use the files in the locus we have been using, which is the learning project. Okay, now the learning project right now, remember we stopped when you're having that form we created last time. So we shall go to that redirectory of learning, we shall create a new file and we shall name it config.php. This is the file that's going to handle our connection of the database and the forms. Okay, we're just going to look at only this file. How do we connect the front end to back end? How do we make our form recognize that it's having a database where it's going to store or retrieve data from? Okay, that's what we shall start from. But in this form, in this case, we are going to use the MySQL list function. List function, it's already a written function in PHP, okay, with its parameters. Okay, so without wasting time, let's start. Remember, for any PHP code, I told you we start with an opening tag of PHP and its closing. So we shall define the variables that we are going to use. So in this case, remember we started our Apache server. We shall come to MySQL, we check the databases we have, or create a new database, or to connect to the already existing databases. It will take you to the localhost myphpadmin. Oh, it's taking long to load. Okay, it has already successful. So in case you don't have any database, you will come here on new and you create. Let's say this is going to be my first database, first DB. Okay, you press create. So we have created our new databases. Our new database is called firstDB. So we want to connect the other end to this end. We want to connect the front end to write in the database called firstDB here. So we shall go back to our PHP. So we start defining functions. So the first defining variables. So the first variable we shall define in this case, we shall look at the, let's say, the server name we're using. Okay, that's needed for any database, for any connection in PHP. The server, when the file needs to know, or the system needs to know which server am I on working. So after that, we shall define another function and we shall name it we shall name it the person who's going to use that the person who's going to write in the database. The server name we are defining here, also written the spelling. The server name we are defining here, it shows where our database is connected. So the username is the user who's going to log into that database. You know, whenever you log into a database system, it asks for the username and password. So this is the username we are talking about. This is the username we are asking for. So we shall get also this, and we terminate. Then we shall get another function, another variable. In this case will be the database name. We shall call db name. The db name is the one we just created. Okay, which specific database do we want us to connect? Okay, then we shall go to the next part, and we shall define another variable, which is the password of that very database we've just created. Okay, so far those are the variables we need. Now we shall create a new variable that will handle the connection of all these things at once. So if you have the extension, by now it will be showing you how you're going to connect. For these extensions, I told you, you come here and you download PHP formatter. There's PHP formatter. You can get the PHP composer and all. So we shall continue, and we say, let's make a new variable. In this variable, I'll call it con. Con will be a spelling for me for my connection. It will be an abbreviation to say connection. So I'll call the MySQL this function. Okay. On this, I will open. So I will show that I want this to be the connection. I want this to be the connection of the connection. So this, I'll show that I want this to be the connection. Okay, this function is an inbuilt function in PHP, so it will show the connection of the variables that we have been defining here. So it has a syntax it follows. Sometimes it may show you're not complete, but whenever it asks for the host name is the server name, is where we're hosting. Okay, so I would use the variable I used. In this case is the server name. Okay, comma. Then after that, it will ask me for the next variable. And this case, the next variable it's asking is the username. Okay, so I named it as username. You put the exact variable the way you defined it here. The way you defined it here is the way you put it here. Any change of name may lead to errors, so we separate them by a comma. We go to the next variable, and the next variable in this case we are going to have the password. So we shall copy the same way we did it for the password, and then we put it here. Then the last variable, I think it's going to ask for us for the DB name. Okay, then the DB name of the database, we use this function of the database. We use this variable of the database. Use it as DB name. Okay, so now remember, for the database we created in the database, it's on the local host for now. That's our server name. The server name is on localhost. The username by default for XAMPP, it is root. And then for the DB name, we put the DB name that we used. Okay, the DB name that we used in this case, it is FastDB. Okay, shall come to our code editor and rename it FastDB. Then the password, by default, it doesn't have a password. We didn't make the password for this. So now this has defined our connection, but it doesn't show whether one has connected or not connected. So we can check it by going to this specific file, which is our config.php. Okay, it's telling us the MySQL list function, name parameters, user role, password, yes. But it doesn't show us whether we have connected, we have not connected, and so showing this error. Okay, so check for this variable. Okay, Control S, come back, refresh. So it's showing this. Shall come back with where the problem is. Server name, is it the same as we used here? Okay, it's showing us this error. So we shall check whether our database connection is on, or so it has gone off. So we shall put it back, and then we shall restart. So on restarting, it has showed us. So how do we make it to show us that whether the connection is successful or not successful? So we shall go for if, the if function, and we say if the connection which we defined, the variable we defined, if the connection is true, if the connection, let me show if there's any connection error. Okay, we shall write function and says, and the connection has died when it's not there, so we shall echo check your database or check your MySQL server. Okay, then we shall check your MySQL server, and then for that, when the connection, for our connection variable we used, for our connection variable we used, which was con, in case of any connection error, like when the connect error shows, then when the connection error shows, then we shall, when the connection error occurs, this is also an inbuilt function. We shall leave it open, and we also close this tab from here. Okay, then we shall close the function. Okay, and then if we close the function, automatically it comes for an otherwise part as we are doing for functions, and we shall say your database connection is successful. Okay, then we can terminate this also, and then we save and we come back, we run this to see yeah, so it will give us your database connection is successful. So going back to the code and passing through what we have done, we started by defining the variable names. That was the server name and the host on it, which is on which we are using, which is the local host. We define the variable to show the username, which is root, and database connection. Okay, and I've used another database which is Gokatsu, but you can also use another database of your choice. Let's say we use first DB as we had first used. Again, it will show the same thing. Okay, it just depends the database you want to connect to. For the password, you leave it blank because by default doesn't have password. Then we define a new variable and we assigned it to a function which was MySQL listing for connection. Then we wrote an if function, and this was help us to check whether the connection is there or not there. This is the statement that connects to our database, but it doesn't show us whether it has connected or not connected. So for easy troubleshooting, we try to get the way how to follow up by writing this if function, and this if function is also attached to the variable we made, which is the con. So we say if the connection error is there, then and it dies or it doesn't connect, then we echo check your MySQL server. So let's just imagine we have changed the DB name to here and we save. Now try running. Let's check out the MySQL server. Let's try changing the DB name to stretching the DB name and remove some variables so that you see whether it will connect or not connect. I shall come and reload. So here the errors it shows. This happens because of the configuration that are not tallying with your database. Okay, so briefly that's how we do database connection. Let's meet in the next video talking about other parts.